Good evening and welcome to our daily devotional reading here at the Make-Believe Monastery devoted to learning. I'm really happy that you are joining us tonight. For those who are joining for the first time, what we are doing here is we're reading through the dialogues of Plato in 1 year. At least all the dialogues that most scholars agree have been written by the man himself. So that being said, let's quiet our hearts and our minds. I hope you had a good Friday and have the great fortune of being able to look forward to a restful or joyful weekend. But for now, let's not think about that. Let's just listen to the words of Plato. We're in the Cratylus. Socrates. And what is the nature of this truth or correctness of names? That, if you care to know, is the next question. What is the nature of this truth or correctness of names? Is the next question. Hermogenes. Certainly I care to know. Socrates. Then reflect. Hermogenes. How shall I reflect? Socrates. The true way is to have the assistance of those who know, and you must pay them well, both in money and in thanks. These are the sophists, of whom your brother Cratylus has rather dearly bought the reputation of wisdom. But you have not yet come into your inheritance, and therefore you had better go to him and beg and entreat him to tell you what he has learned from Protagoras about the fitness of names. But how inconsistent should I be if, Hermogenes, whilst repudiating Protagoras and his truth in brackets is written, was the title of the book of Protagoras. If whilst repudiating Protagoras and his truth, I were to attach any value to what he and his book affirm. Socrates. Then if you despise him, you must learn of Homer and the poets. Hermogenes. And where does Homer say anything about names? And what does he say? Socrates. He often speaks of them, notably and nobly in the places where he distinguishes the different names which gods and men give to the same things. Does he not in these passages make a remarkable statement about the correctness of names? For the gods must clearly be supposed to call things by their right and natural names. Do you not think so? Hermogenes. Why, of course they call them rightly, if they call them at all. But to what are you referring? Socrates. Do you not know what he says about the river in Troy, which has a single combat with Hephaestus, whom, as he says, the god calls Xanthus, and men call Scamander. Hermogenes. I remember. Socrates. Well, and about this river, to know that he ought to be called Xanthus and not Scamander, is not that a solemn lesson? Or about the bird which, as he says, the gods call Chalkis and men Cymindis. To be taught how much more correct the name Chalkis is than the name Cymindis, do you deem that a light matter? Or about Batea and Marina? And there are many other observations of the same kind in Homer and other poets. Now I think that this is beyond the understanding of you and me, but the name of Scamandrius and Astyanax, which he affirms to have been the names of Hector's sons, are more within the range of human faculties, as I am disposed to think. And what the poet means by correctness may be more readily apprehended in that instance. You will remember, I dare say, the lines to which I refer. Hermogenes. I do. Let me ask you then, which did Homer think the more correct of the names given to Hector's sons? Astyanax or Scamandrius? Hermogenes. I do not know. Socrates. How would you answer if you were asked whether the wise or the unwise are more likely to give correct names? Hermogenes. I should say the wise, of course. Socrates. And are the men or the women of a city, taken as a class, the wiser? Hermogenes. I should say the men. Socrates. And Homer, as you know, says that the Trojan men called him Astyanax, king of the city. But if the men called him Astyanax, the other name of Scamandrius could only have been given to him by the woman. Hermogenes. That may be inferred. Socrates. And must not Homer have imagined the Trojans to be wiser than their wives? Imagined being the correct word. Hermogenes. To be sure. Socrates. Then he must have thought Astyanax to be a more correct name for the boy than Scamandrius. Hermogenes. Clearly. Socrates. And what is the reason of this? Let us consider, does he not himself suggest a very good reason when he says, for he alone defended their city and long walls? This appears to be a good reason for calling the son of the Saviour king of the city which his father was saving, as Homer observes. Hermogenes. I see. Socrates. Why, Hermogenes? I do not as yet see myself. And do you? Hermogenes. No, indeed, not I. Socrates. But tell me, friend, did not Homer himself also give Hector his name? What of that? Hermogenes. Socrates. The name appears to me to be very nearly the same as the name of Astyanax. Both are Greek, and a king, Anax, and a holder, Hector, have nearly the same meaning, and are both descriptive of the king. For a man is clearly the holder of that of which he is king. He rules and owns and holds it. But perhaps you may think that I am talking nonsense, and indeed I believe that I myself did not know what I meant when I imagined that I had found some inclination of the opinion of Homer about the correctness of names. Hermogenes. I assure you that I think otherwise, and I believe you to be on the right track. Socrates. There is reason, I think, in calling the lion's whelp a lion, and the foal of a horse a horse. I am speaking only of the ordinary course of nature, when an animal produces after his kind, and not of extraordinary births. If contrary to nature a horse have a calf, then I should not call that a foal but a calf. nor do I call any inhuman birth a man, but only a natural birth. And the same may be said of trees and other things. Do you agree with me? Hermogenes: Yes, I agree. Socrates: Very good. But you had better watch me and see that I do not play tricks with you. For on the same principle the son of the king is to be called a king. And whether the syllables of the name are the same or not the same makes no difference, provided the meaning is retained. Nor does the addition or subtraction of the letter make any difference, so long as the essence of the thing remains in possession of the name and appears in it. What do you mean? Socrates: A very simple matter. I may illustrate my meaning by the names of letters, which you know are not the same as the letters themselves, with the exception of the four ellipson, ypsilon, omicron, omega. The names of the rest, whether vowels or consonants, are made up of other letters which we add to them. Not so long as we introduce the meaning, and there can be no mistake, the name of the letter is quite correct. Take, for example, the letter beta. The addition of eta, tau, alpha gives no offense and does not prevent the whole name from having the value which the legislator intended. Eta is an E, tau is a T, and alpha is an A. Beta is B. So he's just spelling the name. So well did he know how to give the letters names. Hermogenes: I believe you are right. Socrates: And may not the same be said of the king? A king will often be the son of a king, the good son or the noble son of the good or noble sire. And similarly, the offspring of every kind in the regular course of nature is like the parent, and therefore has the same name. Yet the syllables may be disguised until they appear different to the ignorant person, and he may not recognize them, although they are the same, just as any one of us would not recognize the same drugs under different disguises of color and smell, although to the physician who regards the power of them, they are the same, and he is not put out by the addition. And in like manner, the etymologist is not put out by the addition or transposition or subtraction of a letter or two, or indeed by the change of the letters. For this need not interfere with the meaning, as was just now said. The names of Hector and Astyanax have only one letter alike, which is tau, T, and yet they have the same meaning. And how little in common with the letters of their names has Archipolus, ruler of the city, and yet the meaning is the same. Because Archipolus doesn't even have a T. And there are many other names which just mean king. Again, there are several names for a general, as for example, Agis, leader, and Polymarchus, chief in war, and Eupolemus, good warrior, and others which denote a physician, as Iatrocles, famous healer, and Ascemimbrotis, curer of mortals. And there are many others which might be cited, differing in their syllables and letters, but having the same meaning. Would you not say so? Hermogenes: Yes. Thus far our scripture for the evening. I am looking at the myth of Sisyphus and I'm wondering what Sisyphus means. I will have to look it up afterwards. So what is the true way? Socrates starts this passage by asking, What is the true way to know the truth? First, I must infer, ironically, says that it is by going to the sophists. And then when Hermogenes says, like, nah, I'm not going to go to Pythagoras, he says, well, go to ancient texts then. And then I wonder, does he say it with the same irony? Because Plato does indeed have a very complicated relationship with Homer. How do we know the truth? One thing that Plato makes clear in this passage, that we should not jump to conclusions. We should not affirm that we understand prior to actually understanding. When Hermogenes says, oh, I see, and Socrates responds with, then you are better off than me because I do not yet see. It's quite a kick in the head, quite a reprimand. So maybe sometimes it's better to just sit there with a frown on your face the whole lecture or the whole podcast or whatever it is you listen to for your knowledge. I also wrote down the gods know the best name and with a question mark. I just read Joe's weekly essay on this month's book, and it's the final one of the month. I could highly recommend it. And Sisyphus' not denial of the gods, but resistance to the gods, defiance of the gods, he highlights. So I'm going to play with that a bit. Let's see. Maybe I'm committing extreme sacrilege, but I do think that this text warrants it. Questioning authority and not taking as true and right those who are commonly understood and expected to be sources of true and right, and wisdom even. The sophist, in their very name, seen as those who know what's true and right. When I first encountered John, I like to tell everyone about him, and the way I would say is that amongst all the sophists, I have found a Socrates. And I think there are many, many, many sophists, again, resurfacing in our time. And I don't think necessarily it's a bad thing. Because at least people are encouraged to seek and to learn. It is sad that anyone thinks that someone has all the answers and then just follow the leader and not ask for themselves. But hey, Most of these sofas out there today are trying to help people live better lives, and who am I to disparage that? The other source, Homer, aka ancient texts, is closer to heart because this is exactly what we're doing here. We're turning to an ancient text for understanding, in search of knowledge. And wisdom. And where's the sense in that? Is it sensible? In my last conversation with Sarah, I talked about the astrological developments with her, and apparently combining tradition and personal insight. I think it's individual insight. I'm not sure. No. I'm probably misunderstanding it. I think she just said insight is the thing to do in this Neptune-Saturn conjunction. I refer to Sarah often. If ever I should make the make-believe monastery a real thing, she would be my partner, I'm sure, if she will. And hence I tend to draw into this as well. Maybe that is the best way we can hope to progress. By looking at the old, reflecting on the old, contemplating the old, the traditional texts, the traditional wisdom, and reinterpreting them and feeling them. Feeling if they speak to us and to what extent they speak to us. What's in a name? It seems to me, I might be misinterpreting this, that Socrates is moving from sound itself having meaning or being significant to meaning having meaning and being significant. I'm not sure if this is one of the acknowledged or quote Platonic symbols of Socrates, but he seems sometimes to be like a whirlwind, or one of those winds that sometimes blows from the north and then he blows from the northeast and then from the south, and you never know quite where the wind will come from. So he does tend to dance around the topic, which is dialectic, I suppose. Which bring me to another and maybe very valid way to search for truth. Dialectic or dialogos. Conversation. And I really would encourage everyone to try it on their own. If you know me in real life and you want to practice or play at, for me, I tend to see it as something of a game. I tend to see everything as a game, so no disrespect intended. If you want to practice dialectic into dialogos, if you want me to illustrate it with you and play it with you, please just ask. I'll be happy to show you. I do not think I can illustrate it online because it's not my practice. I didn't design it. But I'm sure neither John nor Chris will mind if I played it with my friends. In fact, they know that I do play it with friends. because it's one thing to watch podcasts, which in a way is Platonic dialogues, if you manage to stumble upon the right people. I definitely would recommend Alex O'Connor. There's a lot of Socrates in the boy, young man. But it's different. When John first started doing podcasts, and that's why I don't mention Joe, because when I have like a teacher association with someone, I struggle to listen to them talking to other people. I'm used to them speaking to the camera and hence to me. So I'm still struggling to watch Joe's podcasts. But so I don't know how it is. But it's almost like, and now I hope I can say this on YouTube, but it's kind of like watching porn. If you only watch and you don't participate. And you're not going to improve your own skills. You're not going to have the experience, the depth, and the beauty that is to be had in these conversations unless you practice it yourself. So I highly encourage everyone, until we have a real life monastery and we can sit around the table and do these things together, find people with whom you can have philosophical conversations. Look into John Vervaeke and Christopher Mastropietro's dialectic into dialogos practice. If nothing else, then believe me, it is a lot of fun. I've been reading a little bit, not all of it because I was working today. I've been reading Ecclesiastics again. And I haven't come to the passage yet, but I know Ecclesiastics pretty well. And I think there's a passage that says, do whatever your hand finds to do. I would encourage you to help your hand find some dialectical practice. And in the search, may the spirit of Sophia be with you.